my model. Thank you, Town Clerk. Thank you, everyone. Welcome to tonight's meeting of the Eastgate Town Council Planning Committee. We've got an interesting one tonight where we've got a presentation item number 5 about the lounge south at Crawley Down. But we'll start off with public participation. This is the only time the public will be allowed to ask any questions or anything directed to those the people who won't be taking questions at that point, as it's not a public consultation. If anybody wishes to speak, could they make themselves known, please?
Chairman, may I ask a question? Can you just clarify which site has been presented tonight?
This is Crawley Down Road, this is the 200 home site.
I shall leave the meeting for that because I'm a member of the District Planning Committee. I wasn't aware that was at this meeting, but if I may, as a potential.
It's not an application yet. This is just them talking presentation. So as long as you don't declare your any intentions, you're perfectly fine to sit in and be presented to. Town Clerk, has anyone indicated that they wish to speak?
No, I'm not sure if Mr. Moxford wishes to speak. Did you have a question, Mr. Moxford?
No, thank you, Town Clerk. Thank you.
In that case, we move on to item 2, which is apologies for absence. Please, Town Clerk.
We have apologies from Councillor Hall, who's joining us on Zoom. Councillor de Beltran has got a mail engagement, and Councillor hang on. We can swim on, haven't we? Councillor Scott, who's working.
Thank you.
Could we have those accepted, please?
Yeah, committee, are we happy to accept those?
Yes.
Yeah. Item number 3 is to receive the minutes of the meeting held on the 6th of December. These for accuracy, I would like to propose them, please. Can I have a second? Any questions on those minutes at all? Can I have a show of hands to adopt those minutes? Thank you. Item number 4 is to receive any members' declarations of interest, please.
As mentioned, I'm a member of the Mid Sussex District Planning Committee and reserve the right to change my opinion in any future dates with new information, reports, etc. come to my attention.
Thank you. I'd like to make a declaration on DM21 3677, which is by the Fountain. They're a client of mine. I won't vote or discuss it, but I will just stay in to operate the laptop. Item number 5 is a presentation from Development Intelligence, Barratt David Wilson Homes, we land south of Crawley Down Road. This is a pre-planning presentation given to the committee. It's not a public consultation. Please remind any members not to any questions, not to give an expression of how you'd like to vote when the application comes forward, as could be predetermined. So I don't know how the people want to do their presentation, who wants to go first, but if you'd like to make your presentation.
Francis, did you want a screen share?
Yes, that'd be great. Thank you.
I'll just give you permission. Hang on.
Thanks.
Right, that will allow you to now screen share.
Great. Can you tell me if that is being seen?
It is.
Perfect. I guess we will introduce ourselves first. I'm Francis Gaskin from Development Intelligence. I've been helping organise the public consultation.
I'm Roger White, a design manager for Barratt David Wilson Homes.
I'm Jess Sparks, planning manager for Barratt David Wilson.
I'm Andrew Whittingham from Motion, responsible for the Transport and Highways advice on this application. On behalf of Barrett Davis Wilson.
And I'm Philip Allen from Boyer. We are the planning consultants advising Barrett David Wilson on the site.
So, Jess, do you want to quickly talk about Barrett David Wilson?
Hi there. So very briefly, we are the UK's leading house builder, and obviously we have a massive commitment to building quality homes. We're a 5-star house builder, and we have been for 11 years now. And that means that over 90% of our purchasers would recommend their property to a friend. We like to work closely with parish councils and residents alike and create a positive working relationship. Obviously, we normally like to do that in person, but given these strange times at the moment, we want to create a positive dialogue and do it as much as possible electronically as we are now.
Thanks, Jess. Yeah, I'm just going to summarise the planning background. As I'm sure you'll be aware, the site is a proposed allocation of 200 homes within the council's site allocation plan, which has now reached an advanced stage. We've been promoting the site for a number of years, and the plan's main modifications have recently been published and only seek minor changes to the wording of the site allocation policy. So on this basis, it is clear that the examining inspector is broadly happy with the plan, and that there's now greater certainty that it will be adopted in the early part of this year. This means, from our perspective, that we believe that a significant amount of weight can be attached to the plan, which in our view establishes the principle of development of the site for 200 new homes. The plan identifies that new development at our site is expected to come forward in the first 5 years of the plan period, so before 2026. And as such, we've been working closely with planning officers throughout, but more recently, we've had a number of pre-application meetings with officers, design officers and other specialist officers of the council. We've also, throughout a long period of time, had close discussions with the Highway Authority, which I know Andrew will touch upon later in the presentation. And we are shortly to present to the council's urban design panel. So we are progressing in close cooperation with the planning officers of the council. Next slide, please, Francis. So, again, as you know, the plan includes a site schedule for our site, SA19, which sets out a number of design objectives for new development of the site, which we are seeking to accord with. And the main component parts are sort of set out on this slide, primarily 200 new homes in a mix of house sizes, including 30% affordable homes, a design-led approach seeking to provide a range of different character areas within the site that seeks to protect the main landscape features, so the existing field boundaries and tree hedgerows, and inclusion of a number of play areas for children, and where possible, enhancing the local ecology, especially to the south along Felbridge Water. I'll hand over to Roger, who'll be able to explain the design rationale in a bit more detail.
Well, hello, Council. So this is the plan as it currently stands, following 2 rounds of consultation during pre-app with Mid Sussex County Council. The scheme has come quite a long way, following the feedback from particularly the urban design comments, and we're confident that this is a good quality scheme that we wish to submit fairly soon to planning. As Phil was mentioning, the 200 homes you can see here are distributed across the 3 fields that form the site, with the affordable houses indistinguishable from the private homes and in groups of no more than 10 as per the Mid Sussex policy. We're really building on we're using the character of the area to inform the design. The fields are divided by large, mature and beautiful trees, and we're retaining those, and they form the boundaries between the fields, and we are only taking small roads, forming small roads between the fields, making individual parcels that will feel feel different when you're there. I'll explain that a bit in the next slide. You can see we've got the majority of the green spaces towards the south of the site where the fields roll down to Felbridge Water, but we have some more formal play areas, where particularly within the western field, as near the blocks of flats, we have amenity space for them, and then we have a play area next to the existing play area that will be an equipped area of play. If we can have the next slide, please. Here we are. So we're dividing the site into 3 character areas. Over on the eastern field, we're calling it Crawley Cottages. We plan to change that name a little bit. And then we've got Treetop Views, which is the blue field, and then Green Lanes, which is the yellow field, and they will feel and look different. So each field will have a slightly distinctive character. If we whip on to the next slide, I'll explain how they'll look slightly different. Here we are. So we're mainly dividing the character areas through materials and the design of the homes. So I should explain that we're building this site under our David Wilson brand of homes, which are more traditional looking family homes. And we're taking cues from the local area to inform and uplift the design of our standard house types. So we'll be having slightly different types of window heads. We'll be having chimneys in some of the character areas and not in the others, and different types of facing materials as well, including tile hanging in Crawley Cottages. And then we introduce our more taller 2.5-story units in the central field, Treetop Views. And then we're using our weatherboarding and white-faced buildings, sorry, that's terrible, weatherboarding on our apartments, and with a slightly more denser feel over in the far west in the Green Lanes area. So we have distinctive character areas within this site, so it will not be a monotonous development of 200 homes. It's three distinct parcels of development that will look and feel different to the future residents. If we could pop onto the next slide. Building for a Healthy Life is it's a national scheme backed up in the National Planning Policy Framework, and it's a way of measuring good design with 13 points that you design to and measure your site against. And we plan to have our site assessed independently by Design Southeast, who are an independent architectural review panel, and with the aim of having an accreditation from them that we can present to the council saying, we've designed this site in accordance with nationally agreed and good quality urban design. We've achieved a full 13 points, and then we will also use this later on in the education of our sales staff to really promote that we have good design, and it's our intention to build the best possible development here. If we go to the next one, green space and landscaping. As was mentioned a couple of slides ago, we have trees and hedgerows along the boundaries, and we're preserving them wherever possible and hopefully enhancing them as well. Our 2 new play areas that we're providing within the development will be of distinctly different quality and different feel, and be accessible for both the new residents who will live there, and will be accessible to the existing residents of the wider Felbridge. And the development also, we encourage sustainable transport, and we're linking in and will be accessible to cycle route 21 via the bridleway that divides the central and the western parcels. If we could skip over to the next file, next.
There you go.
Please. Protecting the neighbours' amenity. we're aware that the residents around the site have been there for a very long time, and we really want to respect that. So we're setting, we'll be including buffer areas within the development, setting back our development slightly with additional planting, and making sure that our new homes are not too close, and overlooking won't be a concern for the existing residents.
Good.
If I could pass over to Andrew now.
Thank you and good evening. As you might imagine, we've had long-standing discussions with West Sussex County Council and Mid Sussex District Council, as well as Surrey County Council. And really those discussions centre around three different aspects. Firstly, highway access on Crawley Down Road. Secondly, the sustainability of the site. And then thirdly, the traffic impact of the proposals. So taking each of those in turn, the site access, the highway access has been designed to manual for streets standards that you'll be well familiar with, from traffic surveys, speed surveys, to ensure the sight lines are safe, etc. And we've had a safety audit on that, which we will include as part of our transport assessment with the planning application. In terms of the sustainability of the site, again, we've talked to the public transport operator and particularly West Sussex, and what we're proposing is a package of measures. One, as it says there, will be upgrading existing bus stops, providing real-time information to encourage people to use it. And we are willing to make a contribution to the southbound bus lane suggestion, which has been promoted by West Sussex County Council. Thirdly, in terms of the traffic impact, which I know clearly is an important, very important consideration in this, we did our own surveys and analysis of surrounding junctions along Copthorne Road, particularly at the junction, the Fellbridge junction with the A22, but also we've fully recognised the work that has been undertaken by Mid Sussex District Council in terms of their strategic model that they've developed, and that's a model that was examined through the public consultation, the examination in public of the draft local plan. And the inspector asked quite a few questions about that. So the combination of that model and our own modelling leads us to the conclusion that there won't be what's called a sort of material significant severe impact at the Fellbridge junction. So that's where we are at the moment. We will be putting all that together in a transport assessment to support the planning application alongside a travel plan, and that will include, and does already include, because it's in draft, some of the comments made by local residents in the consultations that we've had so far. Thank you.
Thanks. And yeah, we held a consultation with the local community last year in December. We had a presentation like this for local people, which 78 people attended. We had a lot of questions, a lot of comments through that, and submitted via email and via the consultation website. We're currently working our way through all those responses. Many of those were sort of constructive, people telling us about their experiences of the local roads, or as local residents, how the bridle path is used. And a consultation statement will be included with the application, setting out all the feedback and how the application has had regard to that. So we are happy to answer any questions you have, or we can record any comments you might like to leave us.
Thank you very much. Now, I know that the town mayor, who is watching this via Zoom, has some questions.
Not sure.
He is in. He is. Yeah. So, Campbell, would you like to ask your questions first? I know you have another meeting to get to.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'm extremely sorry that I had a real struggle getting onto the Zoom site tonight. I did intend to be there from the start of the meeting. However, I'm quite happy to let other people put forward questions. I can see everything that's been said, everything that the developer's trying to do to mitigate. My biggest concern is, of course, the junction. And I don't believe, personally, that anything like sufficient work has been done in that area with regard to that particular junction. It is going to make a mess of things, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Campbell. I'm going to, if it's okay with my committee, start with picking members that are on Zoom and then come to it in the room, if that's okay. Could we maybe start with Councillor Whittaker, please? I know he's not committee member, but
Thank you, Chairman. Can you hear me?
You can.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Really appreciate it. I've got a couple of questions, but 3 comments really. The public consultation only lasted 2 weeks, and which I think is a too short a time period. It was also online. I'd like further public consultation if that is possible, given the fact that this is a district council strategically allocated site, and the district council, as I am one, we have a responsibility to properly consult widely, and more widely, I think, than has been done. Secondly, a question, please. What discussions or agreements have been reached with West Sussex County Council on the really busy public footpath and bridleway that bisects the site and that the road crosses? So maybe if that question could be answered, and then I've just got one concluding comment, Chairman.
Thank you. Would somebody like to answer that question?
Yeah, certainly. I think that falls to me. The answer is that we've discussed it in principle in terms of right from the start of negotiations, discussions. You'll appreciate that it's been a fact. It's there, and the road will need to cross it. So we've accepted that, always accepted that it will be subject to detailed design, but in principle, we foresee it as a pretty straightforward crossing, really. It's not an unusual situation where a bridleway crosses the road. And so we think it would be a very straightforward design that would be indicated in the transport assessment and shown, I suppose, in principle in the master plan. But the answer is, in principle, you know, we've discussed that with West Sussex. As far as I'm aware, they don't have an issue with that.
Okay, thank you for that. My final comment, Chairman, if I may, again, because it's a strategically allocated site by the District Council, all of the allocated sites in the site allocation DPD, as you will be aware, were intrinsically tied to a document called the Infrastructure Delivery Plan, which in detail set out the requirements that the District Council expected of all allocated sites if they pass the examination. So my question to you is, can you please confirm that the full schedule in that document on pages, I think it's 43 to 48, will be complied with in any future Section 106 agreement, please, in financial terms? Thank you.
Sorry, I'll jump in on this one in that case. Yeah, I mean, the 106 will obviously be party to any planning permission that we eventually secure, and they will have their requirements that we will set out and will be informed by that infrastructure delivery plan. It's the same on all of our other sites. Got very detailed Section 106s. Obviously, there not being any sill here, and those will form the headlines basically. So that will be part of the discussion.
So just for clarification, can I ask, so in full, that IDP will be complied with in the 106? Is that your intention?
It will be our intention, certainly. I don't know the requirements specifically line by line, sorry, which is perhaps a slightly vague on my part, but certainly that infrastructure delivery plan will feed into the Section 106 and will be led by Mid Sussex on that one as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Richard Craven.
I don't think Councillor Richard's got a response about the community engagement.
Yes, if that's, I was just going to say actually, Councillor, thank you for your comments there, and I know that you will be like a hawk from your Mid Sussex District Council point of view on them for that infrastructure delivery. If somebody could answer his first comments about having a longer and wider consultation, that's appreciated.
I will say that this won't be the last chance residents get to have their say. Any application will have that statutory period of consultation by the district council, as every application would. So this isn't their last chance by any means.
Okay, I think we obviously want more than a longer than once a planning application is put forward. I think we're hoping for. But we'll move on to Councillor Mockford. I think you have some questions.
Yes, thank you, Chairman, and thank you for allowing me to ask. Given you're building on a greenfield site, your allocation of affordable housing is up to 40%. Is there any reason why you're only preparing to build 30%? And the other question I have, there's not a lot of information on the plans as yet about your sustainability on the site, for instance, rainwater harvesting. And we have the possibility of a food waste collection in the area, should it go forward. What provisions have you made for extra bins on this site? And also, last bit, in view of the government's idea of removing gas boilers in the future from properties in favour of ground source heat pumps, what provision have you made in the groundworks for an easy changeover? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I can certainly answer the first question regarding affordable housing. The pre-application discussions we've had has included the council as a housing officer, and the level of provision is in accordance with the policy requirements, as well as the mix, tenure split and level of wheelchair housing. So as far as we're concerned, we're fully compliant, or will be fully compliant with the policy requirements of Mid Sussex.
Okay, that's one answer. The other two questions, who would like to take them up?
So in terms of sustainability, there will be obviously a full report that will be submitted, but as a general overview, we go down the fabric first process, and there's also, everyone will have some the recycle facilities, and there will also be hedgehog highways, swift boxes, landscaping will be maximised. We incorporate all of those as a group, or from a group perspective, they're incorporated on all of our schemes.
So just to be clear, you don't have any specific future-proofing or green credentials built in at this stage? You just want to put some bird boxes up, is that right?
And as yet, I can't answer any questions about ground source or air source heat pumps, because I don't have that information at the moment. But as my colleague said, we go for a fabric first approach, where our insulation is maximised and hopefully reducing the need for space heating. On the food waste, we'll be providing a thorough waste strategy management plan that shows where waste, food waste, and recycling is stored within the premises, and how far it is taken to be left for on collection day. And then they have specific points where the bin men collect from, and that will be to building regulations.
Okay, I think being that you've come to do a consultation to us, you seem very vague on your answers and very ill prepared. You seem to have not even read the 106 infrastructure recommendations or have any details that you want to provide us. So I'm going to throw some more questions to you from in the room, but I'm hoping for a better selection of answers. I know that my Vice Chair, Councillor Odey, has some questions for you, so I'll go to him first. I know that Councillor Osborne also has, so we'll go to him second. Councillor Odey.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, everybody, for the presentation. I've got a number of questions. The first question is really about the housing mix. Can anyone clarify what that's going to be in terms of numbers?
So out of the private homes, we're currently looking at a mix of, so we're providing from 1-bed apartments, 2-bed apartments, 2-bed houses, 3-bed homes, and 4-bed homes. And we, in our current scheme, we have about 6 1-bed private apartments. I think 8 2-bed apartments. We're looking at about, sorry, and in total that's 63 2-bed private homes, around 43 beds, and then somewhere in the region of 24 beds. It's not quite fully developed, the plan. There's still changing, coming from feedback from the likes of yourselves and public consultation, but we aim to be providing a mix that meets the policy requirement, and likewise for the affordable, both for affordable rent and affordable shared ownership, with a mixture of 1- and 2-bed flats, and then 2-, 3-, and 4-bed homes, and that's in semi-detached properties.
Do you know roughly what sort of price range you're looking at? But I question that really just because there's a development next door that offering a 2-bedroom house for £366,000. It doesn't seem very affordable. Is that similar for your pricing that you're looking at?
So the affordable housing will be provided via a registered provider, so a housing association, whereby David Wilson will build the houses to their specification and then hand them over to them, and then they deal with the disposal and who lives in those ones.
So that's roughly about 60 homes then?
Correct, yes. That's the affordable provision, and that's both affordable rent and shared ownership.
Thank you very much. My next question really is to do with the bridal, and I know Councillor Whisker has asked a little bit about that already, but I just wondered, it says it's going to be improved on the details that I've read, and I wondered if you could give me some more information about how you are going to be improving that bridal way, and how that's actually is that improvement then actually really going to link completely through to Worth Way?
Yeah, I think if I could answer that, thanks for the question. By improved, we really mean it's a discussion having with the West Sussex Public Rights of Way officer, and it's really in terms of surface more than anything. If there are any improvements that can be made in terms of the surface quality or cutting back of vegetation to encourage use, that's the sort of thing we're thinking of. It wouldn't be in any sense sort of widening unnecessarily or anything like that. It's really to make sure that the existing public rights of way down to Worth Way, etc., are there to encourage use.
Have you actually been on that right of way and that pathway to to Worth Way?
Yeah, I have. I've been dealing with this site for many years. So lots of times, yes.
So what are you proposing for the from the bridal path that goes up to the manor house? There's a path that goes down that is the link to Worth Way. I just wondered what your proposals were for that. Is that the cutting down vegetation to encourage more people to use it? Or?
Yeah, I think I sort of stay with my sort of previous that we're not envisaging any significant change, But we do expect that during the course of the planning application, we've been meeting with the rights of way officer from West Sussex to discuss any improvements that they want to see. But I don't have a sort of firm proposal for that at this stage.
No, okay. And in terms of the traffic management and the impact that you envisage or that your model has shown, can you give me more information about that, please?
Yeah, I think without unnecessarily getting into numbers, I think the easiest way for me to explain it is just to quote a few things really, which is that the assessment we've sort of discussed with West Sussex County Council is that typically, the 200 dwellings would generate something in the order of a little bit less than 100 trip movements in each peak hour. But of course, not all of those will go towards the junction. It's actually a little bit less than half. So to try and put it in context, those 50 vehicles, I think from memory, about 1.5% of the traffic flow through that junction or along the A22. So it's a small amount. And what I said earlier is that that's in policy and planning terms and in real terms, it is not a severe, it is called a severe impact on that junction. But I did want to sort of stress that, it's our analysis, but it's also the analysis through the district-wide model that the district has undertaken and has been subject to going through the examination over the summer. Hopefully that helps a little bit.
It does, yeah. Just to clarify, does that mean then that within your modelling, you're within 200 dwellings, you anticipate there'll only be 100 cars in that development?
Moving in the peak hours, so in the morning and the evening peak hours, yes. But those splits, of course, when they get to Copthorne Road, whether they go towards the junction or westwards towards the M23. Okay,
so within a typical development of 200 dwellings, you would know obviously this because you're the experts in this. How many cars would you expect to be in that development?
Well, that's a different question because it depends on car ownership and parking provision, etc. There will clearly be more. Well, to be quite honest, we haven't produced that figure. It's really a case of the assessment is really car ownership and how that equates to the car parking standards. And we want to make sure that enough parking on site is provided, and we are providing to the West Sussex County Council standards. If you would like that number, I can easily provide that for you.
I know that number, but I just wondered if you typically from a development, a David Wilson and Barrett Homes development, how many cars, typically are owned within that, in a development of say 200 homes, just to give me an idea, really.
My estimate would be probably about 1.2, 1.3.
Okay, thank you. I've got one more question, and it's really to do with the A22 Bus Lane. And I wondered if you could put some more meat on the bones on that for me, please. How is that going to work?
Yes. Where we are at the moment, as I understand it, is that there are schemes that have been designed in the past, and initially those involved non-highway land, so have been rejected. And there is a process now of looking at the sort of provision that could be made, within the highway land along London Road southbound, and that's the sort of work that West Sussex is wanting to pursue. It's in accordance with the local plan policy, looking at strategic highway improvement. To be honest with you, I couldn't tell you exactly what that scheme is at present. But what we have said is that we recognise that we want to contribute to sustainable movement, and therefore we are willing to make a contribution towards that scheme as it comes forward.
Additionally to the 106 monies?
Exactly, yes.
So what sort of figure are you looking at?
I don't think I can tell you that offhand at the moment, I'm afraid. It's really a discussion that we will have post-application.
Why post?
Really, because hopefully as sort of discussions evolve, we can have a more detailed discussion about what is a realistic contribution from this development in combination with other developments, the Imberhorn Lane development, etc. And tie into negotiations that perhaps they're having and others are having, so that it needs to be quite a sort of current discussion that we will be having. Well, we've had in principle, as you can tell, so far, and we will be getting towards a number as the 106 is drafted as the application proceeds.
Okay. Can I just flag a point on that one, that West Sussex County Councillors, Councillor Gibson has highlighted to us that the A22 Bus Lane does not feature in the draft West Sussex County Council Transport Plan for 2026-2031. So I wouldn't pin too many flags to that pole for something that is sustainable. I think you may need to go and readdress that and sharpen your pencil somewhat, because offering to add funding to a bus lane that isn't even in a draft proposal isn't really cutting it from this council's point of view, if I'm honest with you.
Yes, if I could perhaps just direct you to my sort of earlier comment, which was that it's to bus infrastructure in the area. And I mentioned real-time information at bus stops or improving bus stop shelters.
I hear what you're saying. What annoys me from chairing this committee is when developers come to us with headlines, and quite exciting sounding headlines of bus lanes on A22s, that actually those proposals and those plans don't exist. So I think from your already past consultation, it would be misleading to the residents locally from your very short consultation. And it's misleading to this committee to propose such things when they don't exist. And as you can tell, that angers me, because I feel that you're trying to pull the wool over this committee's eyes and the members of public in that area, because there is no A22 bus lane. There is nothing proposed. So to put it on your website and then to come to this committee and mention it, and even to get into discussions about potential figures post-application, is totally disingenuous. I'm going to pass this on, Councillor Ogier, are you complete? I'm going to pass it on to Councillor Osborne, please. That's more questions.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I've got some questions, but can I just get you to confirm for me that your sole access from the site will be onto Imberhorn Lane, and to get onto Imberhorn Lane, you've got to go through another large site, over twice the size of yours. Can you just confirm that that is where the access is, the sole access onto Imberhorn Lane?
If I could come in again, our access is well onto Crawley Down Road.
You're onto Crawley Down Road.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. So will you be linked up with the other site, the Imberhorn site, the other large site that's gone through?
No, it's a dedicated access for our site.
Right. Okay. So, do you consider that possibly as a lost opportunity to actually use part of that site and the other side, I mentioned your site and the other side, to try and cut off some of the traffic that's going to be held up at the Star traffic lights, the Crawley Down Road traffic lights?
To be honest, I don't see it as a lost opportunity. The proposal that we're putting forward, has been thoroughly discussed and links well to Crawley Down Road and the route to Copthorne Road and to Fellbridge and to the wider East Grinstead. So in highway terms, I think what we've got is a good proposal. Clearly, in terms of walking, cycle, and sort of equestrian connection, yes, there are linkages south, east, and west from the site, as well as onto Crawley Down Road. So it is well linked in that sense.
Right. Okay. Now my other question here is that you've got 200 properties going up from 4-bedroom down to sort of more or less one-person accommodation. What community facilities are you putting out other than sort of play areas? I mean, that's a lot of people, and that's quite a few houses. Are you proposing any sort of corner shop or any community facility, community hall, or anything of that nature, or is it just to sort of live there and go somewhere else for other things?
Shall I can take that. So obviously we've promoted the site for a number of years through the site allocations plan that obviously looks at development requirements of the district as a whole and setting out the infrastructure requirements of new development as a whole. And we're following the site schedule for our site, which sets out what is expected on site, which is focused on the 200 new homes and open space. So in that sense, we are just according with the policy requirements for our site. There will be, as Jeff has referred to earlier, a discussion around Section 106 and the financial contribution the development will make towards enhancing local facilities to meet the needs of new residents, but effectively it will be a residential-led scheme.
Is there no opportunity, for example, if you've got sort of a block, you're building a block, to include a shop, a corner shop, a paper shop? Where are people going to get their newspapers or their bottle of milk? Do they go walk into the town and walk into Crawley Down? Where do they go for that sort of thing? I mean, people are going to live there, and they need convenience things at hand. I would have thought that wouldn't be totally unreasonable to have one of your properties being a shop with a flat over the top.
I mean, obviously the site is well connected and is walkable to local facilities in Failbridge, which includes convenience stores. And the pre-app discussions we've had with officers haven't led to any desire or requirement to provide a retail store within the site itself.
You're thinking, so I think like that, so you could do that, or you're not?
No, they are doing the minimum required by Mid Sussex.
Yeah, but we're looking for more than the minimum. We're looking for something that will enhance the community, and we have to think of the people who are going to live there. When they built the other estates in East Grinstead, you've only got to go up Heathcote Drive. There was a little shop there, and then you go to the other estates. They've had their little shops. Why is that so difficult for you when you're building 200 houses to make one of them a shop with a flat over the top?
I think that's all that they will the feeling I'm getting is that they are doing the minimum they feel is compliant with policy, not what is best for the residents who live there or the residents who currently live there. Councillor Belty, I know you have some questions.
Thank you, Chairman. A lot has obviously been covered already, and look forward to the expansion of the surveys which are promised and assessments. Could you just give me a better flavour when you're expecting to actually submit a planning application for the site? And also, I know the district plan is in the process of being refreshed, and there is a new sustainability strategy. We've got more in terms of design of houses and trying to sort of, build them to the best spec we can from an environmental perspective. Will you be taking on board refreshment of the district plan and trying to build to that higher spec than maybe within the current district plan policy? Could you just confirm that on the timing, please?
I can take that. So in terms of taking your last comment first, I don't know if you're referring to the council's design guide, which has been published following the district local plan. So that has been informing our design process. We obviously will accord with the site allocation plan, the relevant policies in the district plan and current SPD. I know the district council is shortly to commence on the district local plan review, but as far as I'm aware, a draft hasn't yet been published in terms of what the policy requirements will be set out. So that's probably a bit too early doors, but in terms of all the other guidance that's come subsequently to the district plan, we'll look to accord, and that has informed our thinking. In terms of timescale for an application, we're obviously had a number of discussions with the authority. We are having further discussions, and we're looking to submit an application in February.
In February?
Yeah.
Okay. I think you said there have been quite a few documents you've referred to already. I think that you said needed a bit of expansion and more work on. So it sounds like it's a busy few weeks then, or else there'll be further iterations in due course. Could you just also give an example of some of the feedback you received in the public consultation, and any examples of where you've actually changed the scheme as a result of the feedback that you've received?
We are currently working through that. There'll be internal discussions. I know from reading through them as I'm doing that work that some of the things you mentioned tonight have also been raised, and a lot of the feedback came from immediate neighbours with suggestions about screening and how we can help prevent overlooking. Bridle path users were well represented in terms of the kind of surfaces and landscaping they want to see.
I think, sorry, also just going back then, there's been a lot of work obviously done today. We've done all the ecology studies and the landscaping and things like that, which have fed into the layouts as they are at the moment. We have got the design review panel coming up, which will no doubt also mean some changes to the scheme. So it really is a busy few weeks as we go into the build up to a submission. We have a layout, then we table it and we show residents, and then we kind of incorporate all of those changes just before the submission. So it's usual to have a kind of, all foot to the gas in the final few weeks before we do that submission. I just wanted to quickly jump back. I didn't know when was the best time for it, but I think it was something raised by Councillor Whitaker about the infrastructure delivery plan and the specific reference to the pages, which I wanted to check before committing myself to a list on some pages. But absolutely, the headline, the education contributions, health contributions, local facilities and things like that, they are the headline topics that we discuss with the council. The numbers are basically something that is agreed as part of a formula with the council. So the numbers do flex, but there are a list of indicative figures, estimated costs that are set out in that infrastructure delivery plan. And that is something that we have factored in as part of our proposals. So yes, those are the topics and the areas that we do cover as part of a Section 106, just to confirm that point.
Just two follow-up points. Just, I've had a number of applications for flats in my wards quite recently, and on one of the occasions there was no community building, as Councillor Osborne spoke about. There was a limited community area space, but particularly in terms of flats, is there any anticipation that they'll have balconies and sort of, or are there going to be minimum room standards? Just what's your aspiration for people living in the flats, please, and how they can actually make use of their space?
The flats, sorry, I'll jump in on this one. The flats will have some private amenity space that they are able to use. I take on board your comment about the shops and things like that. It's a really difficult one. We've had, or I've personally had, working for previous developers as well, we've had retail facilities that have been provided, but often the operators of those facilities want to have footfall. And then they want to be on a main road or something like that. So they have those people passing. I know, obviously, this is a scheme for 200 dwellings, but to reach that critical mass to sustain a retail unit is often something quite difficult. And it's not something that has been raised by Mid Sussex as part of this planning application. Going back to the amenity facilities, Roger, I don't know if you want to jump in.
I can hop in on this one. And so the, I'm not sure if it's possible to roll back a couple of pages on the presentation.
Would you like to go?
Do back a few more to the large coloured layout. One more. There we are. So the flats are over in the western field, so the larger, squarer field, and we have done we're doing a bit of work since this drawing was produced, but the flats are located around the open space there to act as larger amenity space and really usable for the future owners and future occupiers of those flats. We're also building in a bit of room behind for private amenity within the parking courts as well.
Okay, thank you. And just, I suppose my first question, why you got that screen up? You were mentioning about trying to provide buffer zones, etc. I mean, obviously the south of the site looks quite well protected with the buffer zone to the fields below, but obviously it does look a bit tighter at the north of the site to the, to the houses and to the existing houses on Corley Down Road. And I was just, well, A, wondering just the rationale for that, and then B, just what the overall position was for biodiversity on the site and whether you'd be looking to try and achieve biodiversity net gain as a result of it. Thank you.
So the buffer zone, so the houses to the north of the site, particularly that western field, I'm putting those a tiny bit further south to add further room, and it'll be a proper landscape buffer that it won't be part of the future houses, the future homes, gardens. It will be a proper so it will be like a wildlife corridor, and it won't be able to be encroached upon by the residents by moving fences. So it will act as a green buffer, and it'll be slightly larger than the one shown on plan there. It's one of the things that is in the process of being changed.
And as part of a submission for that, we often find that given the scale of things, it's hard to get an appreciation of how wide things are. So we can submit some sections and also some measurements on those plans to help people understand just how wide buffers, landscaping, gardens and things like that are, because obviously they're more difficult to understand, particularly if a lot of stuff is still being done electronically. So we'll add that to our plans and provide sections for further detail.
And what would the overall position be for biodiversity on the site, do you think?
We haven't run the calculator on it yet, but it's something we obviously need to provide. Well, we've done an awful lot of ecology work on this one already, and landscaping. That's kind of the last level of detail to be done. The landscaping plans are always done once everything else is fixed. I mean, certainly we're seeking to retain as much vegetation as possible. We're supplementing where necessary and around the edges and beefing up some of those boundaries. It's a beautiful site, as you all well know. There's some lovely landscaping. There's the lovely watercourse towards the south. It's something that we really want to enhance. We see it as an absolute asset. So it's not something that we want to scrimp on, but full detail will be provided as part of the submission for that.
Thank you. David, can you got any questions?
I've just got a couple of things really. It's kind of going back to the traffic thing. You kind of said that one of the surveys was done in the summer, and my concerns about doing a survey in the summer is that the activity on the road is greatly reduced on the fact that you don't have families. You have families off of work, so people aren't travelling to work. On the back of that, we've also the last 2 years we've been going through a pandemic, so the surveys that have been done, are there any considerations being made for the lack of normal traffic that will probably be going back through there in the next 3 to 5 years? Probably, you know, when the world goes back to a normal place. I know we're not expecting everyone to go back, but the roads are definitely going to get bigger. The encouragement from the government will be that to get people back into offices, not just having everyone working from home full time. So my sort of concerns and my question to you is, you know, the surveys you've done so far, when are they done, how are they done, what considerations have been made, and what future surveys are you planning to do?
Okay, thank you. The answer is that the surveys were undertaken pre-COVID. Similarly, surveys that were undertaken with, you know, by Mid Sussex in their plan, similarly so, I believe. And I had actually a recent sort of pre-app meeting with West Sussex, possibly 2 months ago now, we discussed that very point, and we agreed that the best assessment was to effectively ignore the COVID situation. So the assessment is pre-COVID. If traffic flows are less, well, so be it. But that's not the assumption. So we believe that's a robust assumption.
And you've kind of very much been targeted around the kind of the junction going onto the A22, but you've also made reference to a lot of the traffic will be heading down the Copthorne Road and through Copthorne that way. But the only two access points that I'm aware of are Roadback Lane, which is a tiny lane, and then the junction of Crawley Down Road onto Copthorne Road, where to turn onto Copthorne Road to go back to Copthorne is quite a dangerous junction, and sort of larger traffic having to turn around that road is you know, it's almost lethal. You know, you could end up head on with cars. So I think the kind of, you know, is the traffic plan to then go back through Crawley Down? I don't think so. So my concerns are what considerations have been made about the effect on the smaller roads and also the dangerous junction to get them out to Copthorne Road. Has that been considered? Is that part of the survey? What's been done about those surveys?
Right, yeah, good question. So the when we were scoping the traffic surveys a couple of years ago, slightly more, with West Sussex, clearly important aspect was to identify which junctions we did need to survey, as well as the Felbridge junction. I think from memory there were 5 other junctions. Certainly one of those was the Roadback Lane and Copthorne Road junction. We looked at those junctions in terms of traffic capacity and turning movements, etc. And we did put those in a draft transport assessment, which was submitted to West Sussex. And they came back saying, yeah, you know, obviously the main issue is the Felbridge Road junction. And the results really showed that there wasn't a significant capacity problem at any of those other junctions I've mentioned. I know there can be momentary junction queuing in peak hours. You know, that's often the case. But what you will see in the transport assessment that's submitted is a detailed consideration of those, if we say sort of lesser junctions around the site.
Yeah, and also the impact is also that will have, as you say, at peak times. There's a school there, and that road gets clogged at school time. So that's, you know, that you know, potentially would have that impact on cars trying to get out to that road and the additional traffic that's going up. It might be only, as you say, so many cars per hour, but those so many cars per hour stuck in that area could lead to a quite significant tailback on a road of that size.
Yes,
I appreciate that's in your report. So yeah, thank you. The other thing which kind of harks back to Councillor Mockford's comments around sustainability and in the kind of the build that you're doing. I've got to say that the answer was a little bit disappointing because you mentioned, you know, you harped to the point of the fabric of the build. But my understanding, and it's, you know, it's not, I'm not qualified fully, but a lot of the sustainability plans for heating and for the ground source is to have things like underfloor heating because it works much better. Well, it works effectively with ground source and heat and air source heat pumps. But that wasn't an answer you gave us, and I thought that would have been an immediate, yeah, their consideration they're making as part of the fabric of the build. So I find that's kind of a concern that, you know, that you haven't come across with that plan, and I've had to sort of bring that up as a point. So I hope that would be something you could go back and maybe as part of your plans of your build that you would add to your concern, your conditions or your considerations. Sorry.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for coming along and your comments tonight. I'm just going to end on a couple of things, not so much questions, but things that I feel that this committee and the residents would like to see improved upon from the presentation tonight. One, as Councillor Dooley just cut and Councillor Mockford highlighted, are the green credentials of this site. I'm disappointed that no comment being made towards EV car charging points or any provision for solar panels being incorporated. These are things that maybe in the minimum criteria, they're not required. But if you're going to stick 200 houses next to our town with no real infrastructure improvement for the town, at least let's see some green improvements. Let's see some effort from you. to have some improvement rather than doing the minimum that's required.
Sorry, can I just, and that's a bit of an oversight on our part. We will have EV charging for all of the houses, and also for the communal, for the apartments, and there will be a requirement for PV charging as well. Sorry, that's me and my rattling off a list earlier on, leaving some pretty obvious stuff on there, but there will definitely be those as well as Fabric First.
These are the things that concern me when you come to a presentation to us, or as we've mentioned, very short consultation, that some of these things haven't been highlighted. I think we will need to see a better transport plan for public transport, because clearly that's our lacking. And I think the thing that really worries this committee, has worried this committee the whole way through, and I know worries the people in East Grinstead and in the villages, is the traffic impact. And whatever you say about 100 extra cars at peak times with 50% going one way to go the other way, to those that live in the town and are burdened by the already existing transport woes travelling through the town, this is only going to make it worse. And you may not think it's substantial, what you're doing. It will have a substantial impact, and it causes a lot of anxiety to residents, people trying to commute, people trying to do the school runs, people trying to get to work. And this is one of the things why this is very unpopular. And I think before an application comes forward, we would really like to see, as a town, I'm not talking as a councillor necessarily here, but as a resident of the town, I'd like to see a more robust response from you about what you're going to do to mitigate it. Putting S106 money towards a bus lane that doesn't exist isn't good enough, in my opinion. I'm not going to ask you to answer it now, but when I see an application come back across this committee, I really, really hope that these things are better, because these are the things that matter to people that live here. We can get into the nitty-gritty of types of houses and how you build them, but making sure that transport is sorted is important to the people. So again, thank you for coming along. We're going to move on because time has run away with us, and the town clerk is nagging me that we have taken too long on this item, but it is a very important item for the town. So thank you for coming along. We are going to get into the main part of the meeting now, so if you want to go off and have your dinners, you don't have to sit and watch it all, and that apply members to the public as well. But thank you again for coming down and present to us.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, we move on to item number 6 on the agenda. I think so you can hear me, which is Chairman's announcements. One of the biggest updates I'm going to make very quickly, the rattle through the split, is that we are trying to arrange a meeting with Welbeck, who are the partners who are doing the other site down at Inverhall, to come and do a discussion with us as well. That's the big one. I'm just going to leave it with that one tonight. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Well, there we go. So item number 7 is protected tree applications. We normally take these on block to refer to the tree officer, unless we have any specific comments. Councillor Dewey.
It's probably no surprise to be involved in 3862 Tall Oaks and 4271. Both oaks. First one, crown reduction of up to 4 metres in crown height and width. It sounds quite a lot, feels quite a lot, so it'd be good to understand and make sure that they're doing that for the right reasons. And the second one, 4271, is a reduction in height by 6 metres and a width by 2 metres. So again, it's just it sounds quite dramatic, but I'm not a tree expert, so I just got to make sure that is really a high consideration with the tree officer.
Okay. Any other comments for any other tree applications? In that case, I propose that we look at the tree officer. Can I have a second for that? And I'll show of hands and support. Thank you. Okay, first item tonight is DO21 4049. Okay, this is 1 to 3 King Street. This is extension and conversion at 1 to 3 King Street to provide 1 2-bedroom flat and 1 1-bedroom flat with cycle and refuge storage. So this is, the next picture probably show it a little bit better. As out in the plans, this is Robert Dyers here. This is the locksmiths and the barbers. The plan is to go up here and see here how the new side and rear is. Not overly happy about the developer including plans here in the which this hasn't been approved. So please ignore that, committee, because it doesn't look like that. At the moment, there are no approved plans, or it do look like that. So ignore that on the heights. This is the current height of the building. Our town representative isn't here tonight. Would anybody else like to introduce this at all, make a recommendation?
Two things. The height has changed in the building, which I think they're hedging their bets because of the other application for the larger building,
that we repeat,
which was being refused. I just I just don't think that it's a suitable property for 1 and 2 bedroom. I don't like the. To be fair, I can understand why they want to do it. They're not using the above floors for retail space or anything like that, so they're looking to convert it. I understand. I just don't know if there's a reason from a design perspective. It's a very old building, and I'm thinking that actually that they're trying to preserve the character of the building, but actually in doing so they lose it. For me, I would put a proposal through for refusal, purely from a design perspective, EG3 and DP26.
I think you can have a second for that.
I'd also add the fact that I'd argue it's not in line with the Sussex Design Guide as well. I think we need to emphasise the age of the building as well.
This building, yes, to clarify, if that building was on the high street.
Yes. Unfortunately, this building isn't. This.
No.
But that does, does that mean that we should treat it any differently? And I don't believe it could be in the future. I don't believe we should treat it any differently. We're losing enough character at that end of town. Let's try to preserve the character that remains. So I would fully support that. I also think it's overbearing, and I do think there are some issues to the side and rear with potentially overlooking onto the other properties behind, which is a concern of mine. So I would fully support your recommendation. Can I have a show of hands to recommend refusal, please? Thank you. This is DM 21 4057. This is Ship Street Surgery. This is glazed extension between existing surgery and pharmacy building with external works for car park and stop landscaping. The extension will include one new consulting room and include the change of use of the existing pharmacy to form a meeting room integral to the surgery. So I don't know how many people are aware of Ship Street Surgery or know the site too well, but we all know where it is. At the moment, there is there's like a garage converted to the pharmacy. The plan is to convert that and build a new link between, which will look a bit like that on the side. Not the easiest way to visualize it, but this is town again. I'll say to you, I'll do this one. I recommend approval for this. I see it having very little impact anywhere around it. It's lower than the existing buildings. It's providing extra consulting rooms to an already stretched doctor surgery. So I fully support this. Second.
Can I comment? And I'm fully in support of it completely, because you do need more consulting rooms. My concern is you're losing potentially 2 car parking spaces there in an already stretched car park, So that's my one worry.
There is.
They're more for the doctors to park there, but that'd be the doctors would then park elsewhere and then take enough space.
There is.
But I think the pros outweigh the negatives on that.
And there is a Mid-Sussex District car park within a very short walk. I admit that obviously we'll go to the doctor's surgery, you can cut through Waitrose and out. It's only 50 distance.
I'm probably nudged it here, and I should probably be a bit pedantic, but it was just a comment really that, you know.
In the absence of going to generate more land, I think we're having a consulting room. We should be encouraging. We should
walk into.
We should encourage people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I have a show of hands and support? Or live into the doctor? Okay, so this is DM21 3677. This is by the Fountain, 16 High Street, East Grinstead. This is permanent retention of external raised seating area to the front of the restaurant, including a timber frame structure with low-level glazed inserts and lampposts. And as I say, I won't be discussing this. So could somebody else leave for me, please? Thank you.
Okay, so as everybody knows, the external raised seating areas on the high street have been extremely successful. My only hesitation is obviously that it's going to be permanently blocking the view to that building. But I think that it's a price worth paying personally. I think the way that the high streets are evolving now mean that outside space is important. And I think that they will become a very valuable addition to the high street, as long as there are meet criteria in terms of style and design, and you know, you're going to have boards of advertising or anything like that, you know, panels. As long as it's sympathetic, I vote for approval.
Yeah. That's not a question.
We need a second.
Right. I will second that. I mean, I wouldn't want to see any more flower beds go, but I think I fully support what Councillor Rose is saying. And in this case, I second it.
I don't see it as a problem. But they've got planning permission. They're asking for planning permission, and yet it's in the ownership of somebody else, isn't it? It's in the ownership of West Sussex, presumably.
Remember, ownership does affect planning.
So, if push came to shove, and you want to get rid of that for some reason or other, because it's become a public nuisance or God knows what, for some reason I can't think of at the moment, then you could get rid of all of that by West Sussex withdrawing the permission to use it, presumably. So the planning permission is just merely a technicality, really, because that's secondary to being able to have access to it, obviously. So as far as I'm concerned, I'll vote for it, as long as you can stop it if you wanted to.
Yeah, I was going to say the same. Because, for example, if the business went bust or something and it all started rusting and looking unattractive, etc.
Yeah, well, still dustbins out there.
That ability to be able, but that rests with the agreement then between West Sussex and the license holder.
Are they going to change it in any way to make it it's more usable during the winter months? Because I find that it's quite sad to sort of drive past it in the winter months and see it completely empty. So I think if there's a way that whether they put some sort of sympathetic heating in there, as I feel, is it covered? I don't know. I mean, I'm just sort of.
It's not part of planning.
It's not part of planning, but my
May
concerns.
I just raise one very small point I'd just like people to be aware of, and I'm not trying to tell you what your view on what has been said. I just want to point out that tree, which belongs to West Sussex County Council, is actually in the flower bed. It currently comes up through the floor.
Yeah.
And to be very fair, the owner has been watering it and making sure it's okay. I would just ask you to be happy that the plan allows the tree to continue to thrive.
Yeah.
Can I suggest we make an amendment or add adequate coverage at that point?
Yeah, absolutely.
The tree is on the patch.
Yeah. But if we put it in writing,
to look
if we
after
put
it.
it in writing, down below. We take it to a vote. All in favour?
Thank you, Lois. Okay. Next one is in Baldwin's. This is DO21 4172 24 Loudon Close. This is installation of front and rear dormers, front roof light windows, and conversion of attic space to form habitable accommodation. Let's see, close up. Load out close. And here we have, I think these were the best ones to show the front and rear proposed and existing. Councillor Dooley.
I think like I say, this has, I think this is the third crack at the whip, I think, and previous plans made it hard to see. I think I'm more inclined to support approval on this because I understand now what the usage is going to be because we get to see a floor plan. Secondly, I think that the dormers that are at the rear are much more in keeping and sympathetic to the design of the building. They're at the rear as well. And then at the front, you've got the three Velux, and where you've got that dormer, which again, they try to synthetically make it like the peak roof at the front there. The reason that has to be like that is because that's where the stairwell is. So it's to allow the head height, the head height for them to be able to get up into that area. So I think given they have gone away and listened to the comments we made around the design, I think I'd be inclined to propose approval on this.
I'll second for that, please. Any further comment on that? The only thing I would highlight is there are some objections from neighbours about overlooking. However, I would say that I didn't realise the stairwell issue, which I can now see on the plans.
Yeah.
So probably no one's going to be looking at that.
That was kind of, yeah, I should have probably said that. Yeah. So the point of, I think the point we made before was when that at one point they had a dormer at the front.
Yeah.
And that was when we rejected it for that kind of unneighbourliness. But with this, as you say, they are Velux, so they're looking up to the sky, and the only people that we go, there won't be something standing at that, because if you look at the plans, it's kind of like access through into that area. So it is definitely more sympathetic. They've definitely listened to our comments. I think.
Okay, can we go to the vote then, committee? For approval. This is D21 4172. Sorry, I'm going to show hands again. Thank you. Right, so DO21 44C, let me put this in retrospective. This is 36 Railway Approach East Grinstead. This is retrospective change of use from hairdressers to residential flats. I zoom up on the terrible set of plans that I'd like to highlight. This is existing shop, apparently. And this is the proposed ones where basically they crossed out the word and written lounge underneath. There's the only difference between these plans. Yeah. So this is the railway approach. This is the ground floor, what was hairdressers, and is being converted into a flat. Councillor Scott hasn't given a great indication on this, but I would like to recommend refusal on this. I am very happy to see flats at pub shops. I think it's as old as the hills. To see retail space converted to residential and poorly converted to residential, I see as completely unnecessary in a town that has so many flats. And I would much rather have seen that retained for retail, as it could have been a hairdresser's, it could have been two parlour, it could have been anything that wanted to be that kind of thing. I see it as a great shame. So the fact that this is a retrospective one, they've gone ahead and done it anyway. Well, no, that shouldn't have a bearing on it, but I think it shows great disdain for our system. So
is that plant room crossed out and utility laundry room?
yes, it is. Yes,
it's interesting.
Yeah. It's sorry. This is appalling. So on the grounds that I see no reason to lose the retail space. I've seen nothing in this that shows that retail space was tried to be marketed before it was converted, which was always a requirement. So I would like to recommend refusal. Have a second for that, then we can discuss.
1 second, Chair.
Yeah.
Just interrupting you, sorry. Was there any information, I haven't looked at the detail of this, but was there information on its square footage and square meterage of the actual unit?
It's very unclear.
It's
very unclear. I've seen nothing that really, the plans are very poor. So there's nothing that really shows to me whether it does meet minimum space requirements, proper fire escape, and proper ventilation from any kitchen space. Nothing that really shows that. So those are big concerns. I've seen nothing that shows that it was tried to be marketed as a residential property, couldn't be leased, couldn't be sold before it was converted, which is obviously normally a requirement. So yeah, I think this should be reduced.
Yeah, I think, I'm with you on this one. And I think the significant thing about it is it's a smaller shopping unit and it's an older one. So it's more accessible to someone who's setting up a business than suddenly confronted with paying enormous prices on the high street. You need a whole range of outlets in the community, really, you need little shops and places where people can start. And that is a shopping street, it's not a residential street. So I think you're dead right there. Is there anybody living in there yet at the moment, do you know?
Unclear.
Eh?
Unclear.
Right, okay.
Can I have a show of hands in support for the refusal amendments? Thank you very much, committee, and thank you for your very robust comments earlier. I am very upset, actually, that we didn't start the meeting properly because of the lateness. We were going to do a minute's silence for Eddie. I completely forgot his surname, which is now Yeah, Eddie Harper. I don't know if you remember, they used to come from the Disability Access Group. Husband and wife that came to all of our planning meetings. Unfortunately, Eddie passed away just before Christmas.
He was sort of quite a lot of hair, wasn't he? Tallish. Yeah.
So unfortunately, he did pass away, and I wanted to include it into the meeting. We should have done it at the start of the meeting, and it's absolutely that we haven't. It's completely my fault. Distracted by the thing. So if I could ask if we could do a minute silence for him now, as he was a stall of this. Yeah, so thank you. If you want to stand, you can, and we can do a minute silence for Mr. Harper. Thank you very much. The next committee meeting will be on Monday, the 24th of January. I'll post the meeting at 8:29.
What was the sound time tonight?
Have you stopped recording?
Projector. And the speaker. Was it coming out there?